Welcome back, everybody. James Bouligny here with Cover One. I have my co-host today with me, Paul Harris. Paul,
Hey James, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. We talked about 11-man last week. Now we have our six-man, our All-COVER1 Six-Man Team prepared. Before we get any further into it, though, we do have to thank our title sponsor, Whataburger.
Whataburger's Buffalo Ranch Chicken Strip Sandwich is back.
Chicken strips. Chicken strips. Chicken strips.
Ranch, ranch, ranch.
Ranch. Buffalo. Buffalo. Ranch. Monterey Jack cheese.
The Whataburger Buffalo Ranch Chicken Strip Sandwich. A beautiful masterpiece.
Okay, Paul, talk about our six-man group, our six-man team. Had a little bit of controversy with the MVP. We had a little bit, but our MVP, I think it was kind of unanimous in the office. This kid just blew up this year. Brenner Sherwood from Robert Lee. Talk about him real fast.
To me, it's one of the best seasons I've seen in a long time. I just can't recall somebody leading West Texas in rushing and leading West Texas in passing. So his numbers were just off the charts, almost 4,200 yards of offense, 70-something touchdowns, and just for everything he meant to Robert Lee, I thought that exceptional season kind of pushed him over the top. Now, of course, it's a lot of times it'll just be the best player on the best team, and the best team in our area was Water Valley this year.
Oh,
and
no
they
doubt.
had 5 first-team All-State guys, so there's a lot of guys to choose from there, including our offensive and defensive MVPs, Landon Lacey and Boston Weiss. So a lot of guys to look at that had great years, but ultimately I just thought what Brenner did was something special in that he was the best player.
Yeah, 4,000 yards is insane. That's 40 times up and down the field. And then 70, over, what was it, 73 or 76 touchdowns?
Yeah, he had a couple defensive scores and a return score, and really it's more times up the field because it's 80 yards in six-man,
Oh, no, yeah, the field's a lot shorter.
And I think what was just kind of neat too was just it was almost split evenly. It was like about 2,100 something passing, 2,000 rushing. Just a true dual threat that could beat you either way.
Yeah, he had 2,186 yards passing and 2,013 yards rushing. So insane numbers from Brenner Sherwood. He did this last year too when he had his brother out there with him. He played extremely well last year before him. But congratulations, Brenner Sherwood, our Cover One MVP. And let's talk about the offensive MVP and defensive MVP. I think these three awards are they're all kind of on the same level to me. They're all extremely valuable players. Let's talk about Landon Lacey real fast and Boston Weiss while we're at. Landon Lacey had, 1,800 yards?
Yeah, and he's a dual threat too. He led him in passing, of course, almost 2,000 passing, and then nearly 1,000 rushing. So he did a great job, quarterbacking that team, and then defense. He's a first-team All-State safety. So certainly MVP worthy as well. And then Boston Weiss, my gosh, 198 tackles.
Almost 200 tackles. Short of 200.
Just a total
on the six-man.
stud. So and then he in the same thing. He contributed to what they did, on offense too. He had like 600 or 700 yards rushing. So again, the really tough part is just singling out the Water Valley guys because there were so many good ones, So
Right.
but those are the leaders on each side of the ball, and so I thought they were definitely our offensive and defensive MVPs of the area.
And then something kind of new we had this year. Newcomer of the year for 11-man, it was Liam Yancey. This year it's Cole Banowski from Menard. Menard jumped down a few years ago to six-man, and I know they'd been flirting with that line a little bit here and there, but last year they played extremely well, and then this year, hey, they met up with Gordon pretty early in the playoffs, so
Right.
it didn't quite work out for Menard, but Menard, hey, they've had a pretty successful program the past 2 years down there, this year and last year.
Yeah, just their third year of six-man, so this is their first district title and playoff win for them, and really they accomplished everything they could. Running into this eventual state champion in the second round, what can you do? But Banowski kind of really stepped up as a starter this year, anchored them on both sides of the ball on the line, and he was a big part of what they did. And they kind of got lost in the mix a little bit because of the great players we had right here in our county. But Menard out there had, I believe, a nine-win season. I think just lost a couple games. Yeah, so they had a really great season out there, and they had some good players. And Bonoski, I just thought, stepping into the starting spot and doing what he did, I thought he was our newcomer of the year. Again, like Landon Lacey, he could have been newcomer of the year also, but he took offensive MVP. So
I mean, hey man, we try to fit as many kids on these lists as possible.
exactly.
And, sometimes if an offensive, obviously in West Texas, a lot of these kids play both ways.
Right.
Obviously, at the six-man level, they most definitely probably play both ways. So, trying to fit these lists together, obviously, if they're an offensive guy, their defensive stats might factor in a little bit here and there. But at the end of the day, we are trying to fill these lists out with as many names as possible.
Right. Tons of kids that were deserving. So
I want to talk about Coach of the Year, Aaron Whitmire from Water Valley. Great pick for us, I think.
I mean, what can you say? They dropped back down to six-man, and in their first year, he leads them to their best season ever, all the way to the state semifinals. They had some good wins along the way. The Westbrook win was a big one, holding off Robert Lee in district, and then even Whiteface. I mean, they were right there, almost made it to the state finals. So can't say enough for Whitmire. This was his first year as six-man too. He's previously an 11-man coach.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Trey Cisco left Sterling City and went to that coaching staff, and I mean, he talked about Trey Cisco being so important to that team and, for the defense out there.
Right, and that's why these individual awards are team awards, too. Any of these players, they had players helping them do what they did, and same for the coach. That's a coaching staff of the year award, really, because, I mean, obviously Cisco, with what he did on defense, that was a huge part of it. So, congratulations to Water Valley's entire coaching staff for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Great job up there in the northern Tom Green County. Talk about the offense real quick. Merrick Howell from Rochelle, Jaden Payton from Menard. Those two guys, great seasons for them.
Yeah, Howell's a Rochelle spread back. That they had an up and down year. Kind of expected them to, they headed into the year number 11 in the state. Thought they may do a little more, but ultimately once they got in the playoffs, they showed just how talented they were in that 20-point loss to Cherokee. And so, Hal was a good dual threat for them. And when he was on the field, he was their leader. And so he ultimately ended up being our only spread back on the team as far as being designated as a spread back, because we had some other spread backs like Sherwood and Lacey that took other spots. So some great spread backs. They just took some of the top awards. But Merrick Howell for spread back. And then, Menard, again, like we said, the great year they had. And nearly 1,700 yards rushing from that running back. He was probably our top running back in the area, I think. In a right. Just as a pure running back, Peyton, man, he put up huge numbers. So he was one of the best players, kind of an under the radar guy for us.
Yeah, let's talk. And then Bront Cole Knight, they have a pretty good rushing attack up there in Bront.
Yeah, especially for a 4-win team to put up 1,500 yards rushing. That's super impressive what he was able to do.
Yep, and then Bryce Martin from Very Best. This kid is, fantastic. He played really well last year for him, and this year, obviously, he had a great season as well. 1,100 yards, 27 touchdowns, throwing the ball, catch the. I don't think, for people who don't know how six-man is played, a lot of the times they take the snap and he'll pitch it back to another player who will then find a guy down the field. It really does. It's kind of, just backyard football almost. But Bryce Martin had a great season. Garden City's Brody
Waltz, I think.
Waltz. Oh, Waltz, yeah. My bad. I thought that was an I. Sophomore.
Yeah, he was a real, he had playing time as a freshman, so I thought about him as newcomer of the year, but he had actually played before, but really kind of took that next step this year and was their best player and, kind of a great utility back too, because he could do it passing, rushing, receiving, got it done on defense. So, Garden City took a big step up this year, and he was a big part of that.
And then we're going to Arion County, Colton Loudermilk. Great play. That's a player who Gofell talked about and Harrison talked about, their two past head coaches. They brought up Loudermilk quite a lot, being, hey, he's that guy for us out there. And it was hard because there were other great players, obviously, throughout those 2 years, but now he was the guy. He had a great season, almost 1,000 yards on the ground, 13 touchdowns. Great season from Loudermilk. Render Gardenhire from Blackwell. He's a sophomore, too. You want to talk about him a little bit?
Yeah, Blackwell had a slow start, started 0-5. They came on strong late, kind of showed what they were made of, even got a playoff win. Had a lot of young guys having to step up for them, and he was one of them. Ended up leading them in rushing, and, I think he's going to be one of our top backs coming back next year.
All right, let's talk about Nate Samaniego. 5'6", 120 pounds.
Yeah, and yet he's the big target in their passing game. You know, first team All-State wide receiver. So you know, we talk about Sherwood because of all the numbers he puts up, but when he did, you know, go to the air, Samaniego was a big play threat for him. Averaged a bunch of yards a catch. I think over 20 yards a catch for them.
He had 34 catches for 727 yards and 16 touchdowns.
I mean, you know, when you needed a big play, he always delivered for him.
Yeah, it speaks for itself. Going back to Water Valley, Gunnar Brooks, better offensive player in the area. One of the, you know.
Yeah, you know, golly, I really wanted to put him at DB because he had 9 interceptions, so he led the area in interceptions. But he was, you know, he earned All-State recognition for what he did as a receiver, and so that's where I went with him at. I mean, he was a huge receiver, had some big games as the year went on. He seemed to just get better and better as he got more comfortable in that offense, you know. So can't do much better than that. First team and second team All-State wide receivers right there.
No, I mean, he had 39 catches for 682 yards, 14 touchdowns, and then 9 interceptions, 52 tackles, a safety, and 2 defensive touchdowns. Great season from. I think we all kind of respect the year Water Valley had. I mean, how many players do you have on this list? Like 7?
Yeah, it's pretty
like
crazy.
that?
Some of these guys get overshadowed. You know, I mean,
Right.
second team All-State wide receiver right there, and yet he almost gets lost in the mix with everything else they got.
Right, and then tight end Preston Dellinger from Garden City.
Yeah, he missed all of last year with an injury. Comes back this year, and it was a huge part of what they did with his blocking, and you know what he did in the passing game as well.
All right, we're getting in some offensive linemen here. Hayden Colster from Water Valley, junior, 6'2", 165 pounds, 8 catches, 99 yards, 4 touchdowns. But when you're on the line, that's another thing. 6-man, you could snap the ball and still go down for a touchdown.
Right. So that's the thing. Some of these guys, it's not just what they did with their blocking. You know, some of them will turn into a big part of the passing game as well. But you know, Water Valley had two linemen that Manley as well that made our team.
Cade Manley.
Yep.
All region center. And then he had 7 catches for 89 yards and 5 touchdowns. And then going back to Menard, Tate Wagner, 6'1", 230 pounds, second team all-region center, 41 pancakes. That's pretty impressive.
That's one of my favorite lineman stats, the pancakes. But yeah, man, Menard's got some size on their line, you know. 6-man guys often, you know, it kind of speed becomes bigger than size, you know, more important than size.
Right.
But Menard had some legitimate size, you know.
Well, staying in Menard, Aiden Ramos, 6'5", 260 pounds.
There you go. The other guy was the little guy on the line. Yeah, it's crazy, you know. So that's a big part of why Menard was able to do what they did, having those big guys up front.
Yep, and Caden Reeves from Lone, Gunnar King from Rochelle. Great players, too, on offense.
Yeah, and good for Lone. I mean, it's tough out there. They're often struggling to field a team. They had some excitement this year about finally having enough guys, you know, a little bit of, you know, potential heading into the year finally, and they had their best season in 17 years. They went 5-5, and it's tough out there being in a district with Richland Springs and Rochelle, you know, and so.
Right, I mean,
So good
Richland
for Lone.
Springs is getting all the publicity. Rochelle is always out there being competitive, and again, these are 6-man programs, man. And this is both 6-man D1 and D2, so
Right.
some of these schools just have trouble putting teams together because they're so small.
Truly.
And-
Sometimes you got 7 or 8 guys, man. It's just a success to not get 45 or to make it to the game or to try to have enough healthy bodies. So this was Lone's chance to do something. Their coach was excited heading into the year, and they did do something. So good for them.
I mean, I remember one year a team had a girl playing for them. They only had 5 players, and she stepped up, and she was, you know, going to play on the team as well. And just because that made 6 players for you. So these teams are extremely small, so getting any type of recognition, getting any type of, you know, people talking about you is always great. So congratulations out there to Lone. Moving to defense, Billy Perry, Richland Springs. This kid was spectacular when I went and watched them in Comanche when they played Evan. Was it Evan that I went and saw? Event? Or was it one of their playoff
I think
games?
you saw Zephyr maybe.
Zephyr. It was
Yeah.
Zephyr, yeah. But Billy Perry had a monster year. The violence that team played with out there was impressive. And this kid, he actually lost his father at the beginning of the year. And still went out there and just lit it up, had a great season. What do you have, 24 sacks?
Yeah, the D-line was, just like on our 11-man team, the D-line is one of the strengths of this team we put together. We got a couple of All-State guys, first-team All-State, and 24 sacks. My gosh, it was that's crazy disruptive. And, Richland Springs doesn't play, they often are done by halftime, so sometimes
Right.
their stats don't truly indicate, what their guys are capable of.
Right, yeah, no, just on defense, he had 80 tackles, 3 forced fumbles, 5 fumble recoveries, a safety, an interception, and 3 defensive touchdowns. Then on offense, he had 724 rushing yards, 17 touchdowns, and 79 passing yards, and a punt return for a touchdown. He was everywhere for this team, just all over the place. Another kid, Anthony Quintana from Water Valley, probably could have made the team as an offensive player as well.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of think of him as a running back first because he's just their biggest kind of playmaker on offense. I guess Landon Lacey is, but as far as their skill position guy,
When they were 11-man, he was always popping up as. I don't think Water Valley probably ever should have been 11-man. I think they probably would have, if they stayed at 6-man, they would have been okay. But sometimes the numbers don't work out for you.
Yeah, and Quintana missed a couple games to injury. I believe both games Water Valley lost during the regular season were the 2 games Quintana missed. So he's a huge part of what they do. But then on defense, that's where he earned the first-team All-State recognition. Put up huge numbers. Not a big guy, but in 6-man, sometimes those speed kind of rushing guys, that's what you see more than just a beastly defensive lineman.
Right.
But Quintana, and then they had another defensive lineman. Naylor, right. Brylan Naylor, another guy that gets lost in the shuffle there, but that put up huge numbers for them on the defensive line. And, sometimes in 6-man it's tough to tell. A great defense may still be giving up a lot of points, but Water Valley had a great defense.
Oh, absolutely, they did. I mean, Quintana had 114 tackles, 8 for loss, 2 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 6 fumble recoveries, 3 interceptions, and 1 defensive touchdown. Naylor had 122 tackles, 5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 1 safety, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. Just playing out of their minds. Let's go back to Menard. Colby Powell from Menard, 47 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, a fumble recovery, and 2 defensive touchdowns. Great player.
Yeah, definitely. Menard had a lot of good guys that just didn't get a ton of recognition throughout the year just because of some of the great teams that we have in our area, But he was a disruptive dude for them on the defensive line.
And then Cohen Holscher from Eden. Holscher, that's a wall name, so out in that area. So Eden, just led him with 107 tackles on defense. Anytime you have over 100 tackles in 6-man is impressive,
right?
I think.
And they didn't even make the playoffs, so just in 10 games.
And you get in these super competitive districts too, like Richland Springs and Rochelle or Robert Lee, very best. Robert Lee, Water Valley, very best type things that they're just power districts and you just get caught up in it sometimes. Cooper Claiborne from Blackwell, he had 79 tackles on the defensive line, was the first team all-district on the offensive line.
Yeah, another big part of what they did out there in Blackwell. I think he may have been their defensive MVP as
well
well as the district. Yeah,
he was. And then Gage Behrens from Richland Springs. We probably could have put everybody from Richland Springs on this list.
Yeah,
Gage Behrens.
They hog a lot of spots over the years, as the Coyotes do. But yeah, he put up good numbers for them at linebacker. Definitely another one of their playmakers. I think they ended up having like 6 guys on the team, and they had a great team overall.
Yeah, I mean, Behrens had 11 sacks, 4 fumble recoveries, a safety, and interception. He scored 3 defensive touchdowns. It's kind of impressive that we've talked about Richland Springs the past few guys, and their defense is scoring all these touchdowns for them. Kind of explains why they 45 all these teams when you have a defense that can do that.
Yeah, they've always had a really great defense out there, and of course Burkhart's no longer there, but Sean Rogers, his longtime assistant, is kind of carrying that on. I think he's more of an offensive guy, but the Coyotes have always been known for having a great defense out there.
Yeah, I know that picture I have of Rogers with number 9. Number 9 was his son, so both of them in that picture. I thought that was kind of a good moment to have.
Definitely.
Cole Estes from Rochelle, 81 tackles, 5 forced fumbles. Just how many fumbles have we talked about so far for the 11-man or the 6-man defense?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy,
I mean,
because it's more wide open, and I've always thought 6-man guys, man, they don't get enough credit for how good of tacklers they are. Because if they don't make the tackle, then it's a touchdown a lot of times. So
Oh, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. I remember when Sterling City first moved up, and I was talking to Cisco out there about it. I was like, it might be kind of good to have that 6-man mentality because you have to make that tackle. In 6-man, if you don't make that tackle, they're gone. In 11-man, you do have 10 other guys willing to come make a tackle, but having that mentality of I had to make the tackle, it's always a good thing to have when you're playing football. Obviously, going to very best, a senior from out there, AC Natividad. 75 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, a sack, 3 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, a forced fumble, and 3 defensive touchdowns. He says he just kind of lined up wherever they needed him to.
Yeah, and that's the big thing about 6-man too. An injury or two can throw off everything, and so suddenly, oh, sorry, you're not running back anymore. You're going to have to move to lineman for us or whatever. And so some of these guys, they're really more just utility players because out of necessity. They could have put up better stats if they got to stay at one position. So really, it's just such an Iron Man form of football what they're doing, And so a lot of these guys, again, are just so versatile and just lining up in spots that maybe that's not their best place to be, but it's what the team needed. So that he was one of those guys.
And then moving on, we got Hutton Rogers, Richland Springs first team All-State safety, 46 tackles, 4 interceptions, returned one of those for a touchdown, and then on offense he had 300 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, and a run-heavy offense.
Right. He could have had more opportunities if it wasn't for Etheridge and Billy Perry and what they're doing on the ground.
If it wasn't for their entire team.
Yeah, exactly.
EJ Aviles from Richland Springs.
Yeah, he was the one that transferred over from Oglesby.
All right.
And again, I thought he might make more of an impact on offense, but they were set. They had a great 1-2 punch in the backfield already. So, he made his mark on defense and he was only second team all region for them, but his numbers were pretty impressive. So,
all right. And then closing out the list for offense and defense, Creed Cummings from Blackwell, 114 tackles. And then on offense, he had 12 catches for 302 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, just in 12 games, averaging over, I guess just about 10 tackles a game. But one of our bigger tackling machines in the area.
All right. Before we go any further, though, we will thank our sponsor, Jim Bass.
Right now at Jim Bass, scan our QR code and find great deals on cars and trucks. Right now, you can get $11 grand in total savings on all remaining 2024 Ford F-150s in stock.
You can only get deals like this at Jim Bass Ford, Houston, Hart and Arden Road, or 24/7 at bassbus.com, or you can use this QR code right here. It's on the other side, isn't it?
Okay, we're going to talk about some special teams because obviously that's still part of it. You still need all 3 phases of the game. Lucas Martinez from Robert Lee was one of their kickers. He was 13 for 14 on point after attempts.
Yeah, that was impressive to me because that was that crazy Westbrook game.
Right, in the Westbrook game.
Yeah, so, when they had to have it over and over trying to keep pace with them, he was as rock solid as you get for 6-man, so I thought he was a good kicker for us.
Well, and kicks in 6-man it's scored differently. They're worth 2.
Right. So they're extremely important. That can be the difference real quickly, in a game like that where you're matching score for score. You can start falling behind if you're not able to convert, and you've only got 4 guys blocking, 6 rushing in, so it's not easy to do. You got to be quick and accurate,
Yep, and then Parker Posey has a punter. First team All-Region, honorable mention All-State as a punter. Then he had 70 tackles as a defensive lineman, 15 pancake blocks as an offensive lineman, which just shows how athletic these kids have to be when you're the punter, offense, and defense. And Parker and Posey was one of those kids, too, that all those coaches brought up in the past about, hey, he's one of those guys that's special. And then Cohen Etheridge from Richland Springs, he's a sophomore. What can we say about the Etheridge family, man? Just putting out athletes.
Yeah, it's kind of like the first family of 6-man football, especially having an Etheridge at Richland Springs. It just kind of feels right. He's just a sophomore. He was honorable mention All-State last year for special teams. And that's where I had him as kick returner because he had the 4 returns. But obviously he could have been
anywhere.
Yeah, he was a great running back, great utility kind of player for them. But 4 returns. And that's where he earned the top All-State recognitions. That's where we got him.
On offense, he had 713 rushing yards, 16 touchdowns. On defense, he had 87 tackles, a sack, an interception, a forced fumble, and 2 fumble recoveries. All right, back to Eden Blake Temple, or Teeple.
Yeah, he was a really solid running back for them, just because of what he was able to do out of the backfield as well, what he did on defense. I thought that he made sense as a really good utility back for us.
And then Barrett Block from Lone, another kid from Lone.
Yeah, he was their quarterback and their DB. So, huge part of what they did. Like we talked about earlier, getting the best season in 17 years. He was really the leader for them. And so his numbers may not be spectacular, but he was their leader.
Yep, and then back to Robert Lee, Jackson Tavares, versatile, 55 carries, 297 yards, 12 touchdowns. He had 29 catches for 346 yards and 5 touchdowns. And just, you got to play every position out there.
Right. Sherwood wasn't just a one-man show. I know his numbers were spectacular, but he had guys around him and guys that could have done more if they wanted to give Tavares more carries or whatever, more touches. But, when he was called upon, he got the job done. It was a good utility back for them.
And then Hunter Tucker, Aiden Taylor, and Kelton Williams, very best Erie and County. Rochelle, some more utility backs we had on here. Fantastic years. Tucker had 528 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns. But he did have to play the offensive line. They had some injuries. On defense, he had 76 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, an interception, and a defensive touchdown. I'm reading these, and it's like a bullet points of everything that they've done. It's really incredible. These kids are playing as much as they're playing out there, and especially if you're not lucky enough to 45 a team, you're playing probably the whole game. I kind of figure if it goes past halftime, and even if there's some distance, they're usually at that point trading touchdowns. Aiden Taylor had 76 tackles in 9 games. He had 1 sack, 2 interceptions, a fumble recovery. On offense, he had 5 touchdowns and a touchdown catch. Rebuilding year for him out there, and he did see some time at quarterback. And then Rochelle, Kelton Williams, did a little bit of everything. 732 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, 387 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, and 179 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. When you're out there putting up all 3, it's an impressive year from you.
Heck yeah, man! Every guy that made this team, was deserving of it for everything they did, and every single one of them. It's here's what he did on offense. Okay, now here's what he did on defense. Okay, now here's what he did in this part of the game. So again, they're playing every single snap. They're not getting to go over there and talk to the coach and see how they're going to attack the defense next time. It's just right back out there every single play. And so utility backs is one of my favorite spots on these teams that we do, just for honoring the guys that just get it done everywhere.
All right, and that's our 6-man, All-COVER1 Six-Man team. Anybody else that any coaches you maybe want to say, hey, they had really good seasons out there? Who maybe was right there on the cusp of making the team?
Definitely, I would say Robert Lee. They were right there with Westbrook. They were right there with Water Valley. If these are some of the best teams in the state, and Robert Lee's only 12 points behind Water Valley or 6 points behind Westbrook, then they are that caliber. They're right there, So I think that Lee McCown deserves a lot of credit. And then out in Menard, Clay Holland, he grew up as an 11-man guy. This is his first year in 6-man, led Menard to, and again, it's just their 3rd year, so I get they don't have a long history, but he kind of really laid a foundation for Menard's success out there. So those are 2 really good coaches that I thought, how do you not go Whitmire from Water Valley? But those are 2 others
absolutely.
That are in the running.
But anyway, we will be back to wrap everything up. Before we do, though, here's a quick word from Jay Chandler.
It's hard to believe how reckless some people can be and how hard they fight against real victims. You need a partner who consistently beats the giants and who will never, ever flinch.
All right, everybody, we are welcoming in Ryan Chadwick. Chadwick, how we doing?
Hey, glad to be here again,
All right. And let's just kind of talk about the season so far. We talk about the playoffs a little bit, but season as a whole. Chadwick, you were in Lubbock for most of the season. You want to talk about your time up there?
Man, it was definitely different. It's football at the end of the day, but just covering a bigger area of schools while still getting to see some of our hometown guys do really well this year. It was definitely an experience. It was a lot of driving, I will say that.
But you also covered some Texas Tech, though. That must have been fun. I see it on your shirt there.
Oh, dude, straight up. 2 years ago, I did not ever see myself getting to this point. I feel truly blessed that I got to cover a bunch of D1 football this year. Got to go to a bunch of different stadiums, including the Jones AT&T Stadium, of course. But it's just a different world, man. But it's something that I hope we will continue to grow. And, I mean, we can't keep doing this without y'all watching this show. So thanks for watching.
Hey, you went to both AT&T stadiums this year.
I did, yeah. The Cowboy Stadium for State, and then, of course, the one in Lubbock. Also got to see TCU's home field, so that was pretty neat, too.
All right, and Paul, what was one of your highlights of the season here?
I mean, it was awesome covering the Bobcats again and just seeing them turn the corner and get competitive. I got to see all 4 of their wins, actually. So, I mean, that was pretty awesome. And even in district, I mean, even the losses, they were right there. So it was a lot of fun seeing them turn the corner, and I'm hoping that they'll break through next year.
Yeah, Paul, out of all the Bobcat games I covered, why did you get to see all the wins and I got to see
I don't know. It worked out
close
pretty good
losses?
like that. You got to see the friendship one, though. That was
I got to see the friendship one. I got to see the Midland Legacy one. I got to see the Odessa High. No, actually,
you saw Amarillo High.
I saw Amarillo
High. You saw
High.
really entertaining games.
Yeah, but my Bobcats are just getting closer and closer. I'm excited to see what Coach Smith has them do next year and see how they turn around. New quarterback next year. I think that's going to be exciting. I don't know. Do you think Tyler Hill? Do you think Colton Hill gets it?
I hope Tyler Hill has 1 year eligibility left. Now, it'll be exciting to see what happens with quarterback. I feel like Colton Hill's such an awesome receiver for them. They sure would love to have him there. But, man, I always felt good with Squeak, whatever was
Jimmy
going
Edwards
on,
is going back too, right? Jimmy Edwards is going back. He was a junior, right?
That's right, yeah.
So Colton Hill and Jimmy Edwards would be a pretty potent passing attack.
Well, and not to mention, Central's got the athletes. We saw what happened when Colton Hill went down. Guys stepped up, right?
Right.
And so maybe we see that and Colton Hill moves to quarterback, but who knows? It seems like the Bobcats are transitioning more to a run-first team anyway, so I guess we'll see what happens.
I don't know, we kind of talked about, but Chad, what was your highlight of the year?
Man.
Don't say Tech.
It's got to be the playoff game between Sunray and Post, weirdly enough. That game was back and forth the entire time. No one gave Post a shot. Sunray had been ranked number 1 in the state almost the entire season,
Hard to argue with it.
Right? Yeah, and it was a cold, windy night. No one wanted to be there except for maybe the Post Antelopes, and they really took it to Sunray, and they what is it? Is it Luan? Was that the quarterback's
Luan,
name?
yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony Luan.
Yeah, he's an incredible athlete, and he was the only reason why they came back in the first place. But that was one of the most exciting games for me. And then, of course, covering all the state semis in Dallas, I got to see that South Lake Carroll kicked that game-winning field goal to beat Longview, and that was a team that took down DeSoto. So lots of high-level football at least at the high school level. And I don't know, man. Each year you add on to it, it just gets more intricate, and the grind never stops. But I love it. I wouldn't do anything else.
Yeah, I like that we kind of expanded our area a little bit. Not that we have constraints on who we can cover, but I mean, covering some of these other schools and even some of the big country and.
Well, I mean, shoot, you got to go to the TAP State Championship. That was awesome.
No, that's probably my highlight of the year there was covering TAPS. I mean, saw Witten in Brownwood when they scrimmaged Brownwood, and he was a fantastic. Didn't just give me coach speak answers, gave me actually well thought out answers. And then at the state championship, those kids are, phenomenal, man. And seeing that all these kids are moving on, CJ's going to Rice, Gardner's going to University of South Florida. You got Boise State and San Diego State. It's incredible that this type of athlete is out there playing, and they're all on the same team. And then Janus is going to be Gunnar Dillard's teammate there at Oklahoma for baseball.
To your point, I also thought it was awesome that we had more than one athlete sign up for D1 programs. Of course, Gunnar Dillard, he's going to play baseball, not football, but we got some. Reagan County representation going to be at the D1 level. I just think that it's not every year that West Texas gets to get involved like that. So, it's been a great year for West Texas football.
No, sports in general, really, so far. I know that it's really just been football so far, but, I think we kind of see it on the horizon out there that we're going to have really good seasons in basketball. We're going to have really good seasons in baseball. And let's talk about basketball real fast. We're going to be covering basketball.
Yeah, so it's going to be looking like that we're going to keep this ball rolling into the district play of the basketball season. We're going to be covering both boys and girls teams this time around, so you'll get to see the ladies in the future highlight videos and whatnot. And I do think that the Concho Valley has a couple different teams this year that can actually make some noise, and that includes, of course, Erie County and Christoval. But the Central girls have a new head coach this year. Their previous head coach, Arsenio Jeter, is now the boys basketball coach. So it's going to be a different look from the actual Bobcats team who won a playoff game last year, the first time in forever that the Bobcats have done that. And so let's see if we can get some of our 6A, boys and girls rolling again. But other than that, Paul, I think that we're going to have some coaches on, or we're going to do our best anyway. We're going to just kind of not covered exactly like football, but it's going to be more commentary like this. Like what do you think that is going to come out of our basketball coverage this season?
I'm looking forward to just sinking my teeth into district play now that we can finally put football. I mean, football just takes its own beast. It takes up like half the year. And district play is really, for a lot of the districts, just get going on Friday. Some of them already have a few games in. But this is where you start to really get the big games and start building up towards the playoffs. And we got some great, the Wall Jim Ned rivalries, and it just I'm looking forward to just seeing what we got, in basketball, because it's kind of gotten ignored a little bit, in December with football taking the spotlight. So looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah. It feels like just feel like football's a little more structured. I mean, I guess I don't want to say it like that. It's just with football, it's one game a week, and it's always on Friday, and we've been covering football for, we just kind of started this basketball coverage this past couple of years, and you've got boys and girls, and you play Tuesday and Friday. There's just a lot that goes, just a lot more events going on, whereas Fridays usually, through football, Friday's the day. Now you got Tuesday and Friday, and you're covering boys and girls. There's just a lot more that goes into basketball. So
I do think that we have the opportunity to see a bunch of these programs take the next step. Like the Lakeview Chiefs almost made the playoffs last year. I'd like to see them take a step. They still have a bunch of athletes out there that they're going to unstrap the football pads and just kind of step on the court. And I'm excited to see that transition period. It's always funny to watch every year when all the football players join the boys basketball teams. They play a little rough in the beginning, and a bunch of them foul out. But it's pretty funny.
Now you got 5 fouls. Can't take them home. They don't roll over. Might as well use them.
Yeah, it's always sloppy at first, man. That November, December basketball can be kind of rough to watch sometimes when they just played football a couple of days earlier. But the district play is coming on, like I said, at the end of this week, and there'll be the big games, and it'll be good structure, and we really kind of find out who are the best teams.
Absolutely. But do you have anything else you'd like to add before we close it out here?
Nah, man, it's been a great 2024 for football, and I'm already excited to start talking about, coming up off-season workouts, and then, of course, fall football camp coming in August.
And, hey, we got track coming up and baseball coming up, and we have a whole bunch of golf coming up, a whole bunch of stuff coming up for Cover 1. But for Ryan Chadwick, Paul Harris, and myself, this has been Cover 1, and we'll see you next time.
When it comes to unique pieces you can't find anywhere else, Kano's Diamonds and Coins is your one-stop shop. With over 24 years in the diamond and coin industry, Kano's Diamonds and Coins is West Texas's choice for diamonds, jewelry, coins, silver, and gold. Owner Bill Kano stands by his work and offers free consultations, including estate jewelry. Don't just trust anyone with your valuables. Come see the staff at Kano's at 10